Thomas Tuchel has just subbed off Kylian Mbappé in the 67th minute.
Il a un contrat, il est notre joueur. J'ai expliqué pourquoi j'ai pris la décision et c'est son décision. C'est le job de...
The football world would treat Tuchel as the problem, the guy who could not handle stars. Mbappé was the future. Mbappé was untouchable. Mbappé was right. Then Mbappé finally got what he wanted. This is the story of how one man was proven right by the very thing he was fired for noticing, and Mbappé got exactly what he asked for. Thomas Tuchel took over PSG in 2018, and for the first few months, he tried to do something deeply unfashionable in modern football. He tried to coach. In October 2018, Mbappé showed up late to a team meeting before a big match against Marseille. Tuchel dropped him from the starting 11. The message was simple: you are 19, you are the future, but you still show up on time. Mbappé's camp was not pleased. 19 years old, and his camp was already getting involved in whether he starts a football match. That should have been the first clue. Not about Tuchel, about Mbappé. December 4th, 2019, PSG beat Nantes 2-0. Mbappé scores. Tuchel subs him off in the 78th minute. Mbappé walks off visibly unhappy. His team has won. He has scored. He is unhappy. 3 days later, against Montpellier, Tuchel subs him off in the 90th minute of a game PSG are cruising in. Mbappé refuses to shake Tuchel's hand, refuses to make eye contact. Tuchel tries to explain. Mbappé looks away with a scowl. Cameras catch everything. Stop and appreciate the image. A coach in his mid-40s trying to have an adult conversation with a 20-year-old who is ignoring him on live television because he was subbed off with 2 minutes left in a match his team had already won. That somehow was Tuchel's fault. Then again came Montpellier. February 1st, 2020, 5-0. Tuchel tried again. Sub him off in the 67th. Give Cavani some minutes. Protect his legs. Normal, rational, boring coaching decisions. Mbappé tried to walk past him. Tuchel grabbed his shoulders. Mbappé covered his mouth, shrugged him off, refused the jacket, sat down on the bench like a man waiting for his lawyer. And then Tuchel did something almost nobody does in modern football. He said the quiet part out loud. I am the manager. It's me who decides who comes off and who comes on. We play football, not tennis. We have to respect everyone. The images of dissent, he said, don't give a good image. He was not angry. He was sad. The reaction from the football world was swift and unanimous. Tuchel was the problem. Tuchel could not handle stars. How dare he challenge Kylian Mbappé? By December 2020, Tuchel was fired. The narrative was sealed. The German was too rigid. The German did not get it. Mbappé was the future, and the future was right. Keep that in mind. Before we get to Madrid, you need to understand what Tuchel actually noticed, because this was not some petty German grudge about a 67th minute substitution. Tuchel saw something specific, and he was right about every part of it. Receipt 1. The awards speech, May 2019. The French League's annual gala. Mbappé wins Player of the Year. On stage, in a suit, in front of cameras, he announces he might be looking for a new project elsewhere if he does not get more responsibility at PSG. PSG's management found out the way the rest of us did, by watching it on television. The owner had to issue a public statement insisting that Mbappé was 100% staying. Receipt 2. The Brugge hat-trick. Champions League group stage. Tuchel starts Mbappé on the bench against Club Brugge. Mbappé comes on in the second half and scores 3. Great performance. And then, in the post-match interview, Mbappé says, and this is a direct quote, "I wanted to show how difficult it is to do without me." Read that again. He did not say he was glad to help the team. He said he wanted to prove a point to his coach, on camera. 20 years old, already briefing against his own manager through the post-match tunnel. Receipt 3. The Instagram likes. The night of the Montpellier substitution. The night Tuchel grabbed his shoulders. Mbappé goes home, opens Instagram, and starts liking celebration photos from Real Madrid players who had won their own match that day. Within hours of publicly disrespecting his coach on live television, the player is on Instagram liking posts from the club everyone knows he wants to join. It is the footballing equivalent of texting your ex during your own wedding reception. Receipt 4. The Bum. September 2021. After Tuchel is gone, different coach. Mbappé is subbed off against Montpellier again, because of course he is. And on the bench, the cameras catch him muttering to a teammate that Neymar is a clochard, a bum, a tramp. His own teammate, on live television. Mbappé later admitted he said it, claimed it was in the heat of the moment, moved on. The media moved on. But if you were Thomas Tuchel, sitting somewhere watching that clip, you were allowed one small, quiet, deeply German smile. Because the problem was never the substitutions. It was never the rotation. It was never the coach. The problem was always going to travel with him, to the next coach, the next team, the next country. Tuchel knew. He was just the first person stupid enough to say it. Mbappe's relationship with Real Madrid was, for years, the worst kept secret in football. He was a Madridista as a kid. He had a Zidane poster. Everybody knew it. Real knew it. PSG knew it. So in 2022, when Real Madrid thought they had finally got him, when the deal was done in everyone's head, Mbappé turned around and signed a new contract with PSG instead. The Spanish media lost its mind. Marca's front page accused him of betraying Madrid. They wrote that he lacked the class to play for Real Madrid. As the headline ran, he's the one missing out. In France, L'Équipe gleefully ran something that read, essentially, France 2, Spain 0. Picture being Florentino Perez reading all of that while your biggest summer signing announces he is staying in Paris. That kind of humiliation does not evaporate. It ferments, because here is what actually happened in 2022. Mbappé did not just say no, he used Real Madrid. He used them to extract the most absurd contract in the history of French football from PSG. He used their interest as leverage, and then he went back to Paris. The Madrid media never forgave him. The Madrid fans never forgave him. The board went quiet, and they waited. 2 years later, in the summer of 2024, Mbappé finally signed for Real Madrid, for free, on a contract. The most famous 25-year-old in the world, arriving at the club of his dreams, with no Tuchel, no Neymar, no excuses. The whole world was watching, to see, finally, the real Mbappé at his dream club, playing the part he had spent his entire life rehearsing. Careful what you wish for. The first few months at Real Madrid did not go well, not terribly. In La Liga, Madrid lost points against Mallorca and Las Palmas. After a flat team performance in a Champions League loss at Liverpool, the Spanish press sharpened its knives. And here is where you see how the 2022 rejections still fermented in the walls of the Madrid media. Veteran journalist Tomás Roncero wrote that Mbappé doesn't rebel on the pitch, that he lacked the fire of a Cristiano, the leadership of a Vinicius, that Mbappé did not even seem angry when things went badly, that he accepted bad nights with a coldness that leaves me puzzled. Let that sit for a moment. The same player who refused to shake Thomas Tuchel's hand over a 67th minute substitution was now at Real Madrid being accused of not caring enough. The man who turned sulking into an Olympic event in Paris suddenly could not summon the emotional energy to look annoyed in Madrid. Another Madrid watcher, Alfredo Relaño, went further. He said Mbappé was arriving at Real, acting as if simply signing for the club was the point. We expected a Cristiano profile, he said, and got the first years of Benzema. Not a young Benzema, the first years of Benzema. The years most Madridistas spent quietly wondering whether they had wasted their money. By the end of 2024, a section of the Real Madrid fan base, not journalists, not pundits, but actual supporters, built a website with a countdown clock. A digital clock ticking down the seconds remaining on Mbappé's contract, like a bomb. Fans of the club of his dreams, keeping a running countdown to his exit before he had even completed a full season. And remember the Marca headline from 2022, the one that said he lacked the class to play for Real Madrid. Remember it, because the Madrid media had not forgotten either. The biggest dressing room story of Mbappé's Real Madrid era was not about the coach, it was about Vinicius Jr. Vinicius had spent 2 years as the main man at Real Madrid after Benzema left. He was their star, their finisher. He had carried them to trophies. He had been booed by racists around Europe and turned that into rocket fuel. He was the heartbeat of the team, and so was Toni Kroos. And then Mbappé arrived, the world's most famous player, top of the wage list, top of the marketing list. Vinicius suddenly was sharing a kitchen. Former France international Eric Dimeco put it in one perfect phrase: "We knew coexistence would be difficult. Now you put two roosters in the same henhouse." Through the first half of the 2024-25 season, Vinicius went over 2 months without a league goal. His form dipped. His body language got worse. Commentators started speculating, quietly at first, that the partnership was not so natural. Dimeco went further. He said on French television that Mbappé's presence was making Vinicius crack, that Vinicius had even started imitating Mbappé's worst habit: neglecting defensive duties, walking back instead of sprinting. The bad habits were contagious. It finally boiled over in a Clásico against Barcelona in October 2025. Xabi Alonso, the new Real Madrid coach, substituted Vinicius. And Vinicius reacted like, and this is where the cosmic joke lands, like Mbappé used to react. Shouting, sulking, open dissent on Spanish television in the biggest fixture in world football. One Spanish commentator called it a powder keg moment. Julio Pulido on Cadena Ser floated the idea that the easy solution would be to sell Vinicius. Sell Vinicius to keep Mbappé. Real Madrid did not sell Vinicius. They quietly renewed his contract. Both players went on television to insist their relationship was incredible. Everyone said the right thing, but the fact that a Spanish commentator was publicly suggesting Real sell their homegrown Brazilian superstar to accommodate Mbappé within a year of Mbappe's arrival tells you everything you need to know about the gravitational pull this player exerts on a dressing room. Tuchel felt it first, Deschamps felt it next. Xabi Alonso was just the next coach in the queue. October 2024. France has a national team window. Mbappé, the captain, pulls out of the squad with a minor injury. Completely normal, happens every window, nothing to see. Except he was seen in Stockholm at a nightclub during the window he had just pulled out of. That is already a bad look. Captain of France, unavailable for his country, available for a Swedish nightclub on the same day, but Stockholm had more to offer. That night, Swedish prosecutors opened an investigation into an allegation of sexual assault at Mbappe's hotel. They did not name him, they did not accuse him, they made that extremely clear. But Swedish reporters linked his stay to the case, and the world's media ran with it. Mbappe's camp confirmed there had been relations with a woman at the hotel, but insisted they were consensual. Mbappé went on French television and said the accusations surprised me, but don't worry me. If justice calls, I will answer. By December, the Swedish authorities dropped the case for lack of evidence. Legally, Mbappé walked away clean. No charges, no findings, no case. But by then, the real damage had already happened, and it had not happened in Sweden. It had happened inside the France national team. The November window came around. Deschamps left Mbappé off the France squad. Officially, a minor injury. Officially, arrest. Officially, punctual, not a punishment. Unofficially, according to reporters in France and Spain with sources inside the camp, it was exactly a punishment. Cadena Ser's Miguel Martín Talavera reported that Deschamps wanted to control the locker room and decided to get rid of Mbappé for now. Reporters quoted French players being relieved that their captain was not showing up. They said the squad had never liked that Mbappé had been given the captaincy over Griezmann, and now their captain had bailed on national duty to go to a nightclub. In a country that would spend the next 2 months in a scandal about whether he had assaulted someone in his hotel, Deschamps, the man who famously exiled Karim Benzema from the France team for years, that Deschamps had just quietly, publicly benched the best player in the world to send a message. Real Madrid sources, speaking anonymously, told Spanish reporters that every international break with Mbappé now seemed to bring noise and controversy. The club felt that this kind of attention benefits nobody. Benefits nobody. The most understated complaint in football history. From a club that had been waiting 6 years to sign this player. And somewhere, on some couch in Germany, Thomas Tuchel, now coach of the England national team, presumably ordered another coffee. By early 2025, the narrative had fully turned. Not against Mbappé, not yet, but around him. Something had shifted. French journalist François David of Le Parisien said on radio that the grey Mbappé at Real Madrid was the same grey Mbappé they had watched in the final difficult months at PSG. That his sources in the players' camp admitted Mbappé was struggling mentally, that he was depressed, in a full depression, that he had even started seeing specialists for help. And now, finally, we are at the point of the story where the sardonic edge has to step aside, because this is a young man dealing with something real, enormous pressure, isolation, at the top. A career spent inside an ecosystem designed to tell him he was right even when he was not. But that is also exactly the point. That is exactly what Tuchel was trying to manage, not out of cruelty, out of coaching. Every coach Mbappé has worked with has eventually had to make the same call. Luis Enrique briefly benched him at PSG in late 2023 after a contract standoff. Deschamps banished him from France over Stockholm. Xabi Alonso has had to sit Vinicius down because Vinicius was starting to imitate Mbappé's worst instincts. Ancelotti, before he left, spent his final months publicly defending Mbappé. Mbappé has not sunk, Ancelotti told reporters. The problem is the team. The problem is the team. It is always the team. At PSG, the problem was Neymar, or Tuchel, or Pochettino, or the project. At France, the problem was Giroud, or Deschamps, or the armband. At Real Madrid, the problem is the team, or the shape, or Ancelotti, or adapting, or Vinicius. Every coach, every team, every shirt, the same story, the same grievance, the same quiet drift away from responsibility. Tuchel saw it in 2019. He said it in 2020. He was fired for managing it. And every subsequent coach has had to learn the same lesson the hard way, in public, in a different language. Here is what Thomas Tuchel actually said in that press conference in February 2020 after Mbappé had covered his mouth and sulked off the bench. He said he was the manager and he decides. He said football is a team sport, not tennis. He said that public displays of dissent don't give a good image. He said he was not angry, he was sad. And he said, crucially, it's not the first time we've clashed. At the time, those words got Tuchel labelled as rigid, humorless, somebody who did not understand how to manage modern, branded, global superstars. 6 years later, every sentence reads differently, not because Tuchel changed, because everyone else caught up. Deschamps understood it when he left Mbappé off the France squad. Xabi Alonso understood it when he had to sit Vinicius down. Ancelotti understood it when he spent his last months at Real, defending a player who was not quite performing. Luis Enrique understood it when he benched him at PSG. Even Mbappé, on some level, appeared to understand it. Reporters say he quietly accepted, after the Tuchel confrontations, that he had overreacted. He admitted the clochard comment. He acknowledged, privately, that the Stockholm trip had been a mistake. He is not a man who cannot self-reflect. He is a man who does it quietly after the damage is done, which is maybe the most tragic thing about him. Because Tuchel's real point was not that Mbappé was a bad player. It was not that Mbappé was a bad person. It was that without a coach willing to say no in public, Mbappé would collect yes men until the whole structure around him tilted. And when it tilted far enough, the tilt would become visible from space. You can see that tilt now, in the Countdown website, in Vinicius sulking in a Classico, in the Stockholm hotel room, in the France squad quietly relieved he was not called up. In a Madrid journalist's writing in 2025, Mbappé reminded him of the first years of Benzema. Tuchel paid that price. He got fired for it. And then, over the next 6 years, every coach who tried to avoid paying it ended up paying it anyway, just in a different currency. Kylian Mbappé is still only 27 years old. He will go down as one of the great footballers of his generation. None of this is a requiem. But there is something you notice when you zoom all the way out about a career that started with a boy refusing to shake his coach's hand in Paris and arrived 8 years later at a countdown clock built by his dream club's own supporters. Every conflict has been, in the end, the same conflict. It just keeps moving cities. Paris, Stockholm, Madrid, a coach, a teammate, a federation, a fan base, each one individually explainable, each one collectively, a pattern Thomas Tuchel noticed in December 2019. If you want to follow the story of how a winger who couldn't do stepovers became the greatest player ever, check out our video here.